Welcome back to the Last Week This Week podcast. I'm Ian Scott.
And I'm Zach Huber.
And this is the podcast where we talk about TV and movie topics from the last week, get them to you all this week. And this week we have a few exciting Marvel and Warner Brothers topics to go over with you.
Yep. We are going to talk about the fact that Avengers, Doomsday, and Secret Wars both got delayed to December releases in 2026 and 2027. Chris Hemsworth kind of had a video that came out recently, potentially signaling if Thor will be last seen in Doomsday and not forward anymore in the MCU. We also got a cast announced for the new Marvel's Vision series that's coming out. A live-action Elden Ring movie is officially in the works over at A24. And we also got the official announced cast of the main trio for the Harry Potter HBO show that will probably come out in the next, maybe 2026, 2027.
I'm thinking fall 2026, yeah.
So all of that, you can jump around in the podcast if you want to skip to any of those. But the first thing that we're going to start the episode with is that it is being rumored that Mark Ruffalo, Bruce Banner, the Hulk, is rumored to have a large role in the upcoming Spider-Man movie, Brand New Day. Mm-hmm. So, we haven't seen Mark Ruffalo in the MCU since
She-Hulk, I think.
2022's She-Hulk.
Yep.
And needless to say, for those who watched She-Hulk, especially those who watched it all the way through, we end up seeing Hulk in probably the worst context that I've ever wanted to see Mark Ruffalo's the Hulk, which is at a family barbecue introducing his son from another planet. Yeah. And that's about it. That's the last that we know of him. Yeah. And he's kind of damaged his wrist thing that kept him from turning into Smart Hulk. He at one point, I think he had some device that
that he could turn back into his human form, right? Or some shit.
Yeah, he could turn into his human form, and now he's back to just being Smart Hulk.
Look, if he was going to be Smart Hulk, he should have been permanently Smart Hulk. I don't want him going back and forth between human form and Hulk form. Just stick to it.
Right. So I think, I know this is a rumor, but I do think that there's probably some truth to it.
I mean, it definitely follows a theme throughout his movies where he constantly has a mentor figure,
Right. And not that I think that it'll be, like a co-lead or anything like that, but I think it'll probably be somewhere close to how Tony Stark and Doctor Strange kind of were a large presence, but not there all the time in No Way Home and Homecoming.
Right.
And the fact that, Bruce is a scientist, Peter's most likely, if I imagine going forward into this movie, is going to be in college and wanting to join some sort of, or not going to college, but he might hopefully goes down the route of wanting to work at a company that does science. Right. And I know that nobody knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man at this point. Maybe they meet regardless of that. Maybe
because he's still an Avenger. The Avengers still know who Spider-Man is. They just don't know who Peter Parker is. Right?
Yeah. So he could just keep his mask on the whole time whenever he's interacting with them. But
he could. Yeah.
I don't know. I could see it going either way, where he's just Spider-Man when he interacts with Bruce, or
I think he would.
or he's a part of some program or science, class where Bruce is a part of it, and they both get to a mentor sort of thing. Maybe he wants to help. He wants to help Bruce, something with his Hulk, problem. I don't know. I don't really think that like what I would like this movie to do, even though I don't want Hulk to like do a Red Hulk and it'd be like Spider-Man versus Hulk sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we just saw that and I don't need to necessarily see that again. Okay. I would like to, if this is true, get Hulk to like be Hulk again,
Yes, that would be great. Now, so there's I have a few thoughts here because I think there's like two things that could be very interesting, and one where I'm just like the one here is that I think what we all were so hopeful for was for Spider-Man to be like truly alone in this next movie, and now it's like it feels like we're getting more of the same, which is a bummer. But I think what could be cool is that like if Hulk is in it and is a mentor figure, like this could lead Spider-Man to being like a part of the Avengers again. It could lead to like kind of what you were saying as like maybe Peter Parker just interns under like Bruce Banner. I don't know how that would be possible, but and
kind of similar to how in the PS4 video game where he's like working with Octavius, he's or how he'll like intern at Oscorp, or maybe he works at the Baxter building or something like that,
I think you're right, it's something like that where he's an intern studying under and working under his mentor. And I don't know if you've seen that comic panel of like what is it? It's like the world's forgotten who you are. Like Hulk is speaking to Peter, right? And he's like, the world's forgotten, but like Bruce is forgotten, but I still remember, right? So like maybe they're leaning towards something like that because like the Hulk wasn't around maybe during that time when like Doctor Strange
that would be some
flipped his
comic
spell.
Book shit.
It would be, but like I would be down for it. I think it's a cool story element. So there are some good things that could come of this.
The other reason why I think that this has some truth to it is because one of the names also not announced at the Doomsday sharing was Mark Ruffalo.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I mean, if you have Tom Holland and Mark Ruffalo who are not announced for the next big Marvel movie,
right?
It's possible that if this is a rumor,
right, at the same time as the Avengers.
And I think that they like, again, they have common cause, they're both scientists. They both are interrupted in their lives by this biological thing that's happened to them.
Does Bruce work in New York? Do we know where he's working out of at this point?
I don't know. I feel like he just
kind of in New York. Yeah.
I mean, what was it? His lab was in like whatever island it was on She-Hulk. I guess he kind of works out of wherever. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. He's just kind of all over the place.
So I don't know. I think it's true. I agree. Like there was the assumption that it was going to be like a standalone Spider-Man movie. But for me, what I think the end of Spider-Man No Way Home kind of symbolized was no more like help from the big guys, no more like Iron Man Jr.,
right.
This will be like Spider-Man dealing with things like on his own because I don't think that if this is true, I don't think that like Bruce will be like, here's an upgrade, Pete, or like
sure, yeah. Like I think if Bruce is
let me help you out. I'm gonna help you out.
For the majority of the movie, he won't know that Peter is Spider-Man. If they go like the mentor student route,
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be very nice. like just to have him as like a figure in the character and not
or
like
he could take his mask off, like, and nobody would know that his name is Peter. He would still just be talking to this kid.
True.
And be like,
I guess
you're pretty smart. Do you want to like help out with this thing that I've been working on?
True. That could happen too. I guess my thought is that like I don't know if Peter wants to reveal his identity to like anyone else ever again. Right. Like, yeah, I think he'll be Peter to like people, to like the average person, you know, but like I don't think he ever wants to have anybody know that he's Spider-Man as well, you know. Mm-hmm. So after obviously everything that happened in No Way Home. So yeah, I don't know. I think the idea could work. I mean, the other rumors in this were that Tombstone and Scorpion and Boomerang would appear in this as well. If that's true, I feel like those are just going to be like minor villains at this, like the beginning of the movie or something. It feels like they're gearing up for something bigger, even though I don't really want them to. It's just
what
like
do you mean? Something
like
bigger?
like I think the timing, like all the talks we've been hearing about like Sony and Marvel figuring out a story is that like Marvel wants something like street level, and like Sony wants something more like multiverse, cosmic, right? And so I think it's very possible, like, yeah, maybe they find a middle ground, but I don't think this will be like a purely street level movie at this point. I could be wrong, but
well, I mean, nothing about Scorpion, Boomerang, which I know nothing about.
I know nothing about Boomerang, yeah.
Or Tombstone appearing makes me think that it's multiverse at all.
No, I agree. But like that's what I'm saying is that I think those would be like minor villains at like the start of the movie, kind of like just showing where Peter's at, right? And then we go into something bigger. I can't imagine there are like huge parts of this movie. I would love to see Scorpion, like the Michael Mando Scorpion.
But if you do Scorpion though, I will be a little bummed out if he's only like used a small amount of the time.
I would agree.
Like,
that's the one that would bum me out.
Do your like proper in a suit. Like, I actually would love it if you're gonna do Scorpion, if you do the whole like J. Jonah, you know, all right, I'm gonna make my own Spider-Man, and basically just makes I forget what his name is, but makes him, you know, get into the suit and it taps into his vertebrae and just kind of makes him go insane.
Right.
And he's like infused to the suit now. And then Jonah has to like deal with that problem. Like, you know, now he's mad at Jonah, and then Spider-Man has to save. Like, I would appreciate it if they do that.
I would love that. It'd be like a full-on Spider-Man story.
Like, because I think you could have Jonah, you know, like do some shady stuff on the side, like visit that prison he's in. He's like, look, I'm willing to like get your sentence down if you agree to this program or whatever, you know?
Yeah. And they'll reference that Vulture's not there anymore because of the multiverse.
There's no saying that he didn't come back.
Could you imagine? I mean, I would love that, but like it would just be so fucking dumb.
Back, right?
What? Why? Why would he come back?
Well, that he would come back to the 616 universe.
Yeah, but how?
Because after that spell, everybody just returned to their respective timelines.
Yeah, but like, remember, like that the spell returned everyone, but sent him like somewhere else. It didn't send him there and send him back.
Well, I think to me, the way that the Morbius post-credit scene was, and we're getting off topic, but the way that post-credit scene went down was because No Way Home happened first, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the way that I imagine is at the very beginning when those portals were sending people over, he for some reason that makes no sense at all.
It makes no sense. Either way, it doesn't make sense.
He went over there, did this, talked to this vampire, and then was like, "Oh, going back for some weird mystical reason. I'm going back.
Yeah, I don't. I think his character might just be lost forever. To be honest, I don't know if we ever see Vulture again.
That would be a shame because that was one of the better characters.
Probably the best villain that Spider-Man's had so far. No, I mean in this universe. Sorry, not overall. Not overall. I'm just saying over, in Tom Holland's
even over Willem Dafoe again.
Yeah, I guess. Look, I love Willem Dafoe. I love Green Goblin. Yes, he is the all-time Spider-Man villain for me.
Doc Ock is for me, but
really, okay, yeah, no, but like, it's hard for me. It's hard for me to call him like Tom Holland Peter's villain, but he is. You know, like at the end of that movie, he's full on like hating Green Goblin, and Green Goblin just wants him to like, lose all control. So no, you're right. It's Willem Dafoe, but he's a good second. Yeah.
Not Mysterio.
No. Sorry. It's probably I mean, I guess by default he's third. I don't know. He was good. It's just like he wasn't amazing. I think what sold me on Mysterio was like
we are getting way off topic.
We are.
I did not expect you to answer that in depth about it.
you know, I gotta give my opinions if you ask me a question. No, but yeah, I think that's our thoughts on Brand New Day. It's kind of looking a little all over the place, and they're still casting from what I hear. So
right,
we'll see how that goes. I'm shocked that wasn't delayed along with our next topic here, which is that Avengers, Doomsday, and Secret Wars has been delayed from their May release dates down to December of 2026 and December of 2027. And so now Spider-Man Brand New Day is coming out first.
Right. So
which interesting.
Before we get into, the reasons why they potentially delayed those movies, who's to say that Spider-Man movie doesn't get delayed? Isn't like delayed yet.
Sure. I definitely think it could, but like, why not just do it all together?
The reason that I don't think that it will is because that's the summer, that's their one slot for a summer movie, right?
Right.
2, unless they delayed it to the next summer, but
that's what they would have to do. Yeah.
So, but that would be, I mean, it's already going to be a year apart.
Right. Like if they were to delay it to next, like to like the summer after, then it would be a year and a half between Fantastic Four and Avengers Doomsday. Like you would be waiting a long time for the next Marvel movie.
Which isn't, it could build up a lot of hype. I don't know.
A year and a half is just crazy long for Marvel.
The thing is, I don't think that it's integral to the plot to have, like, I've been saying that, like, the same way that like Ant-Man and the Wasp was not something that you had to watch before watching like Endgame.
Sure.
I mean, like,
it just explained where Ant-Man was. Kind of.
Yeah. Kind of. There was a post. You literally had to watch the post credit scene to.
But even then, like the post credit scene, like didn't make a lot of sense. I mean, we don't have to go into it, but like he was supposed to be on house arrest, like during, Avengers Infinity War, and then like once Avengers Infinity War happened, he was like out of house arrest. So they kind of fucked that up in a sense. You know what I mean?
What? No, all right. So, we're not getting into this.
I know.
So when this news came out, I feel like some of the most immediate like reactions I saw was, man, my 2026 didn't even start and now it's ruined. And I was like, come on. Like everyone was like, I knew this was going to happen. I knew this movie was going to, be a problem. I knew they didn't have their stuff together. And now this is coming from somebody who knows nothing about the movie. I don't know anybody who's working on the movie. But this is what I think is going on. I think that when you look at what the Avatar movies make, Like if you look at Avatar, The Way of Water,
$2 billion every time.
$2 billion. When you look at Spider-Man No Way Home, $1.9 billion was the Christmas, in December.
That's crazy.
And the next Avatar movie is doing the same thing.
For sure.
So this is like the Christmas time is almost
it makes sense.
The new summertime, to make to rake a bunch of money in.
Right.
So just in just that alone, the idea of making potentially like $200 to $300 to $400 million more dollars than you normally would,
right?
It feels like that's part of the reason. Now, I don't think that that's necessarily the only reason, because I do think that like all the Avenger movies have typically opened around the May timeline or the May part of the calendar year.
I think so. Yeah.
But if there's something going on that, isn't working, you now have
7 more months.
7 more months to workshop and figure that shit out.
Yep.
You have 7 more months for the VFX artists to composite and render and do all of the things that they need to do so that you don't bitch and complain about how bad the CGI looks.
This is exactly why I was actually like really happy that they delayed it, because like the fact that they were filming at the same like less than a year before like the movie would come out, I was like, there's no way this gets made in time or looks as quality as we want it to, And so now they have plenty of time, and we can actually get a good looking like Marvel movie. Like that's not a problem for me,
Yeah, I really don't think that there's anything majorly wrong. I think they, if anything, like they might realize that like some things need to be like, if we're gonna make this as good as we want to make it, like we should give ourselves more time, and we have the ability to, so why not? So like to be like, I am giving them the benefit of the doubt quite a lot.
Sure.
I'm not saying that I don't think that it's impossible to think that there's something wrong going on, but I don't know. I feel like they've had their story for a while. This idea that they haven't had a story up until they're like shooting the movie, I think is stupid and not true.
Right.
I truly think it's money, and there might be a few things that they're noticing of like, okay, like we're rushing it. Maybe like we're coming up with some stuff that's like a little bit better.
Right.
And we have the time to do it.
Agreed. No, I don't know if you also saw, but they also axed like 3 future untitled like Marvel movie dates. So one in February 13, 2026, one is November 6, 2026, and then one on November 5th, 2027. So I think the only dates now is what is it? There's Spider-Man, the 2 Avengers movies, and then one in July of 2027. So do you think that they do like a Doctor Strange 3 maybe in between the Avengers movies now? Or I just don't know what they put there. Maybe it's Shang-Chi 2. I don't know. I don't know what really makes sense.
Wait, you're saying in between the 2 Avengers movies? In between
the 2 Avengers movies. There's one untitled in July of 2027 that they have.
It could just be the Spider-Man movie that they move.
God, I would hate that. I genuinely would be bummed to go like no, I guess it's just a year and a half without Marvel. Like anything like significant. Even though like, they're hit and miss. But
if it's not, and we take into account that like the modus operandi is like, we're going to focus on big hits from now on and main stories. I think
I think Shang-Chi 2 makes sense then.
I know. I agree, but the problem is, like, you would think that would come from Daniel Destin Cretton, who is currently going to do the Spider-Man movie, right? He might not. I mean, it's not like he owns that character. It's not like but like you would think that they would like to keep like
the same director who
if they can, you know. Right. But and maybe it wasn't as big as like Wakanda, like or Black Panther, but it was still a good quality movie that everybody consistently is like, that was a good one. Why don't we have that one?
Right.
So I mean, I would say,
like, and I guess like your opinion on like what makes sense going into Secret Wars, right? Since you know a lot about that comic.
I mean, I think that Doctor Strange would be, his story just ultimately should follow up in Secret Wars. So I don't think it would be Doctor Strange.
Okay. Like the only other like big money maker.
I don't think it would be a Thor movie either.
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, the X-Men are going to be in Doomsday. Maybe they do an X-Men early. I don't know.
I truly can't think of anything off the top of my head that would be something that they would because I don't think it would be an Ant-Man. I don't think that
they're done with Ant-Man.
I don't think that you would do a Black Panther.
Yeah, I don't think you do Black Panther 3 this soon. I think you do that after the Avengers movies. Maybe
and I don't think that you want to do a Captain Marvel movie.
Did Love and Thunder do like terrible at the box office?
No, I did like 700 or 800, I think.
Because like maybe you do Thor 5, even though, you know, there's some you know,
whatever it is, I think it's a brand new. Even though I said that like they're focusing on hits, I think it's a brand new, like there was talk that they were gonna do like an Annihilators movie with like Chris Pratt. Like you could do that.
Yeah, but it's just like the philosophy is that like you got to focus on guaranteed hits. You know, like that's what they're into now. And so like
I would say
Chris Pratt, yeah, and like Star-Lord is a guaranteed hit, but
I would say I guess you could do a Doctor Strange. I just think it'd be weird.
Yeah, I think if Destin Daniel Cretton can do it, it should be Shang-Chi 2.
But truthfully, I think that Spider-Man's going to move.
Oh, what a shame that would be. What a shame.
Because I don't know. I think it'll move.
Yeah, you could be very right. Well, I think that's our thoughts on Avengers being delayed, right? And you know, I kind of hinted at there with Thor 5 is that Chris Hemsworth shared a post and a video on his YouTube channel kind of highlighting how thankful he is for his time with Marvel and the fans and the journey he's been on, and kind of making it seem like maybe his character is riding off into the sunset in Doomsday, because he said, "I'll see you all in Doomsday." Couldn't be that, you know, maybe that's not the case. Maybe he's just feeling nostalgic and thankful. But it's weird timing, and it's just a weird, like, you don't usually ever see like a Marvel actor do this on their own, you know?
Right.
So
it would be, you know, I think it would if this is like him saying like goodbye, which I don't think it is, to be honest, but if it was, to have him die probably by like, you know, Doctor Doom would like kind of make him a big threat, you know,
yeah,
and if he like gets to patch up his relationship with Loki, which I think there was reports that like those two are gonna have another meeting together,
right?
And for instead of Loki to die this time, it's like Thor, and there's no coming back from that.
Yeah.
I think there's some like narrative reasons why it could be very effective and and fitting, but like there's also been talk that there's going to be a Thor 5 and that they were workshopping some ideas, and
well, they fully set it up at the end of Love and Thunder,
and they
Hercules
did set it up.
Yep.
So personally, I think that this is just Chris being like, one day he's like, I'm really appreciative. Like I get to make this movie, and I'm very excited, and I'm hanging out with my friends. And that's what I think it is. But there could also be a bit of like, hey Chris, it's your buddy Kevin. It would be really great if we could just confuse everybody and keep everybody on their toes about this movie. Yeah. Why don't you write like a post that's like, kind of like a goodbye, but it's not. Right. But it's like maybe you're, so
you're feeling nostalgic. Look, I think there's a third alternative though, which is that like maybe he feels like the way his character is being like written out isn't like up to his liking, and maybe he's like, well, I'm gonna say goodbye in a really nice way right now, and so I can have whatever goodbye is in the movie
while you're shooting two back-to-back movies.
Well, you don't know if he's in Secret Wars, but
right, like I guess he could say like next Avengers, Doomsday, and Secret Wars, but I feel like it's like, yeah, I mean, chronologically it would just be Doomsday, right? So is it possible that he doesn't show up? Yeah, this could be the last one. I don't think that he's gonna be like openly on social media like airing a grievance,
well, and he really he didn't, but I think I don't know, maybe it's a subtle like, hey, like this is my goodbye. Even like no matter what happens, this is, I don't know, this is my way of doing
I feel like I don't know. I feel like you'd be like, you'd have to like get the okay from everybody, and then what are you gonna you're gonna say like to Kevin's like, so why do you want to post this? Well, I don't really like how my character's been written. Well, okay, I don't want you to post this though.
Yeah, look, I guess they might have that level of say over what Chris posts on YouTube.
I would say they have a lot of what he can post about their movie that he's.
Well, he's not. I think he's just saying, I've had a great time, and thank you guys for sticking with me.
Right, but like the studio has a good amount of control over like because they could sue, like if they wanted to, like when somebody like that could, if you say something negative about the project that you're associated with, like, and you financially potentially cause harm to the financial success of the thing that you contractually signed up to. I'm
not even saying this is the most likely outcome. I think your 2 points are probably more valid than mine, but it's a possibility.
It's possible. It's just, I don't know. I think like it would be crazy that he's like, I'm just gonna dip out, tell everyone, like low key tell everyone I'm dipping out after this next one.
Yeah.
Because he stuck around. Like he wasn't digging the way that his character was being written up until Ragnarok.
Yeah, that's what's so funny to me is that like he didn't like his like the first two Thor movies. He didn't like the fact that he like wasn't in Civil War. He obviously he loves Ragnarok, he loves Infinity War. But then he hated Love and Thunder. So like I think for the majority of his MCU time, he hasn't been like happy, like
I don't know. I think he has. I think he probably had a good time on the Avengers films.
I don't doubt that. I don't. Yeah, but like I think 3 of his 4 solo movies, he's basically not liked.
I think there's things he doesn't like about Thor: Love and Thunder, but I do think there's still a good amount that he did like.
I know. I don't know if you've seen him talk about it though, but he's like, I went way too far with the goofiness. And
Yeah,
like,
they did.
and he basically cringes at like his performance in that now. So I don't know. Maybe he does like some of it, but I don't know if he would willingly watch Love and Thunder again. But
I have been wanting
and I know he doesn't.
That.
I know he doesn't really want. I think from what I've heard, like Taika Waititi directing the next one because he wants like a way different tone for Thor. So maybe we'll go back to serious. Maybe we'll go back to that tone in Infinity War. I don't know, but
yeah,
I would like to see more of him than just Doomsday. Even though Love and Thunder was rough,
right?
But yeah, I think our last bit of Marvel news for the day was that the Vision series, which is still happening for Disney Plus, they just cast Tania Miller as the role of Jocasta. And so for those of you who might not be familiar with Jocasta, she is a character that was created by Ultron himself and like to basically be his bride. And from what I like know is that like he used like the brain waves of or like something of like Janet Van Dyne to like kind of populate her personality and like give her life. So and from what we know in the reports that have come out already is that Jane Spader is returning as Ultron in this short story, the show. So it's very possible that we get a story of like him creating his like another life, which would be pretty insane. But like I still have no idea how he survived this whole time, or like how he comes back online after all this time,
right?
And how like yeah, I really love that moment at the end of Age of Ultron where like they had like a almost like philosophical moment, Vision and Ultron, and then Vision ultimately kills him. But like, yeah, I mean, and I guess maybe that's the link there is that Ultron's trying to take revenge against Vision and trying to kill him now. But I don't know. And how does Jocasta kind of fit in to Vision's story?
Yeah. I mean, it's possible that maybe she's like at some point while he was around in Age of Ultron, like he started the process of creating this other life form.
Maybe.
And she
wasn't only around for like a few days or
I know, but like I'm just like maybe like she's just been germinating this whole time. I don't know. Seems unlikely.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know how he comes back other than something about him, like something about Vision now being a like reassembled white version. Maybe some sort of his wiring gets activated, like there's some semblance of Ultron still like in his subconscious.
Yeah, because they're technically brothers in a sense because they were both made by Tony.
Or they completely they change the script of like Jocasta, and
maybe Vision's made her at this point.
Like yeah, maybe Vision's made her.
And maybe he somehow gets Wanda's personality with inside it. I don't know. I mean,
maybe
you could really manipulate it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Yeah, maybe there's what you said, and to some extent, like Jocasta starts to want to make Ultron again. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's not even a conflict with Ultron. Like maybe it's just like. I don't know. I just have no idea what to like think of for a story for White Vision, because like his slate is so like clean. He's reborn. He doesn't have Wanda anymore. He doesn't have the Avengers. He's just alone and with all of his old memories and just kind of figuring shit out. And then you throw in Ultron and Jocasta into this, and you're like, well, that's not where I expected his story to go.
Right.
But I mean, I'm not complaining. It's really cool to kind of bring that all together and kind of go into what like all of these kind of robots like actual lives are like. That's a really cool area to tell in the MCU.
Yeah. And like this is also being brought to life by Terry Matalas, who did the third season of Star Trek Picard, which was very well received. And
right.
I know a lot of people had a great affinity for like this 12 Monkeys television show that came out. So like in some like decent hands from what I've heard.
For sure. Yeah.
I mean, I've not seen everything that he's done. A lot of it does seem to be sci-fi based, which is interesting. So I don't know. Like I like all of like I love Paul Bettany as this character.
Same.
I thought it was going to be a little bit more of a. I thought it was going to be like a little bit more of like a character study sort of.
Yeah, like a
show.
Finding Yourself again or something.
And maybe it still can be, but
I think it can.
It still can be, but it's beginning to feel like we're going to have a big robot battle at some point, which I don't know. I'm kind of over the robot battles. Like the big, especially on a TV show, like something about like TV shows, I don't always need the big like superhero fights.
No, yeah, for sure. I think that's what was kind of disappointing about WandaVision was that we had so much of like great story and then we capped it off by like a normal, like Marvel fight at the end.
But I could be wrong. Like it could just be like a very like thriller sci-fi-esque thing where it's like he doesn't even know what's going on anymore. You know?
And here's the thing. I think this
is all a thing going on in his like mind.
Right. I love that because like and with like real showrunners like helming their shows now, I think stuff like that is way more possible than it was for like the last few years because they were basically just making these shows like a movie. It was just like let's just make a movie and split it into 6 episodes and call it a day. And
which like I think it's funny when I think I remember some people arguing like, oh, that's just how you could do it, like but it's
just not what a show
clear
is.
That you can't.
Well,
for the
consistently you can't, right? Yeah,
because anyways, I don't want to get into other examples on Disney Plus, but I'd say that a majority of Disney Plus shows are better off as just movies.
Agreed.
I actually would love to find the time to just splice together, Disney Plus shows and put them as movies.
I would love that too.
And
honestly.
just watch it like that. Like it'd probably be so much more rewarding.
Yeah, I think you could definitely do it with a few of them. Like I think it might even be better.
I really wanted to watch the Obi-Wan fan
movie
cut
yeah.
Because I was like that. As much as I hate some of the things that happen in that show, it still probably would have been better as a movie.
For sure. Well, I think that's our thoughts though on all the Marvel stuff we wanted to talk about. So next we got some interesting news from A24 that they're making an Elden Ring movie. I guess this is part of their push to get bigger IPs as their properties.
Right.
And Alex Garland, who's the director of Civil War, and I think he just exec produced Warfare, right?
No,
he co-directed.
Well, kind of. He co-wrote and directed that movie.
Okay, yeah. And so very popular director right now is getting to helm a huge IP in Elden Ring.
Well, he's gonna apparently write and direct the movie. Not to mention that he also wrote 28 Days and 28 Years Later, which are both at least 28 years later, is coming out. Alex Garland, one of my favorite directors. I think he's an extremely interesting creator. And when I saw the news that A24 was looking to develop an Elden Ring movie, it like Ian had said, like there had been some talk about trying to get some bigger name IP because there was discussions about how they were going to continue to finance their smaller films. And although they've had success, it's not like A24 movies are necessarily making a ton of money.
Right. So
I just wanted to, I've not played the Elden Ring games, but I do know a little bit about them. So I'm just going to write this description from the Hollywood Reporter based on a mythological story written by George R.R. Martin, which is, our favorite Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon author.
Now, here's the thing. We don't know how much involvement he really had in this IP. But he at least laid the building blocks for them to write upon. So
right. And I mean, I think he from what I understand, he created like a large amount of the lore.
Okay.
To build out the world.
Right.
And developed by From Software's Hidetaka Miyazaki. It's a dark fantasy role-playing game that allows users to explore a fantasy world that has dragons, beasts, castles, dungeons. The plot of the game takes place in a mythical realm known as the Lands Between. Revolves around the Elden Ring, a powerful artifact that has been shattered, plunging the lands between into war and chaos, and then the player is tasked with restoring the Elden Ring. Elden Ring, extremely popular video game, sold like 30 million units, got Game of the Year honors. Yeah. And then there's a spin-off game that's coming out next week, or I think tomorrow, actually.
Next week.
It's coming out tomorrow.
Or is it a DLC?
Or a DLC. I don't know. But anyways, no,
you're right. Spinoff. Yeah.
So, like we had said with A24 movies, typically a lot smaller scale, but I think Civil War, which is what Alex had directed before the newest Warfare movie that he did, was their largest budget. And I think it took in the most amount of money. Like, it was probably their biggest movie that they had besides Everything Everywhere All at Once.
It had $50 million budget. And then box office wise, it had 127 million.
Okay.
So not huge, but still like bigger than, like, I think that was their biggest ever for A24.
Mm-hmm. And I believe, it was A24 that did The Green Knight, which, although it wasn't like super huge in scale, the way that like I'm imagining some of this Elden Ring stuff to be, I can kind of see the blueprint as to how like an A24 Elden Ring movie could potentially look like, because in that movie there were mystical creatures. There was a good use of like of CGI to create certain beings, and you were enveloped into this medieval type world, and it was smaller scale, smaller budget than what I'm imagining this is going to be.
I mean, I think at the most this will be like 100 mil.
Yeah, and I think like, if you get talented people behind it, like what did they do? What did the
creator?
What did the creator?
I think it was like at the most 80 mil.
Okay, so like there is a way to use CGI and create these large set pieces without completely breaking the bank.
I agree. I do think fantasy will require some more like budget than like the creator did. Like if you're going that scale, I think like the style is what's like so drastic in these like FromSoft games where I could imagine like costuming and set pieces will be like extravagant. But here's the thing, like I think you could do a story, like a smaller story set within this universe.
Right. I think it's going to be a smaller story, but there will be
like it doesn't have to involve like the war that's going on in Elden Ring, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
I think you could still involve like the shattered Elden Ring artifact into it. I obviously I don't know anything about the story of this game. But yeah, I really could be into a very beautiful looking, small scale, like intimate fantasy story. Especially if Alex Garland's directing it. That sounds pretty dope.
Yeah. But when granted, I haven't seen 28 Years Later yet.
Yeah, same.
It seems because it's not out, but
yeah, my bad. My mind thought you were talking about weeks.
Right. Well, actually days. There's 28 days weeks. And then there's 20. Well, I know 28 weeks was apparently not very good.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
But with 28 Years Later, although I do think it's also going to be a smaller scale, more intimate story, there does seem to also be, and I know he's not directing it, but he wrote it, and it does seem that there's kind of like a similar, like this is a whole new like fantasy world in its own right of humans 28 years after a zombie outbreak. What does society look like? It's dystopian, and they're kind of going through their own sort of like dystopian epic through this like hellscape journey, which could be very similar to this. And that's
my mind immediately went to like Lord of the Rings, funny enough.
Yeah, I mean, and like, you know, me and my partner are currently watching those movies, and
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and
nice.
And you know, at the end of the day, like that story, although has a bunch of spectacle and big sets, is really just the story of like a group of like 9 people, and even smaller than that, it's the story between 2 to 4 hobbits.
Right.
And even smaller than that, it's just a story of
destroying a ring,
destroying evil, like resisting like temptation or whatever.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think that this is very exciting. I love the idea that their idea, like A24's idea of like going into larger IP, is to do a video game like Elden Ring.
And that's so risky because so many video game movies have like failed, you know, in the past.
Yeah, and I get the feeling that like this is something that like I don't know if you I haven't played the game, but it feels like it's not something that you could necessarily like fail, because I don't think that the story is like something like, because I get the idea that like you're more of like traveling around and the story progresses around you sort of thing. Like it's not
okay. I could see that because like FromSoft games, it's not like there are people who play those like just for the combat alone, and you don't really have to pay attention to a story.
Exactly.
I mean, and that's what I've done like when I've played like Bloodborne or Dark Souls in the past. It's just like there's so much going on. I'm just like, all right, I'm just not gonna pay attention to this and just have a good ride.
Right.
Because it's hard to follow. Their lore is extensively deep and crazy. And so I can't imagine they'll follow anything too complex. But
and I feel like it's kind of like how Henry Cavill's Warhammer series is like. There's so much lore, like he could probably go in any direction that he wanted to and tell a story. And I don't know how I don't know if they're planning to make this like a series, or if they're just like one and done with it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm very excited. I think it's very cool that he's like dipping his toes into, like, it kind of feels like and this will be the last thing I say, it kind of feels like how Christopher Nolan was doing like all these sci-fi epics and or just like more science thriller, and then like the Batman movies, so like big budget stuff, and then he like dips his toe into like doing Dunkirk, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't think that he would do a World War II movie, and then he makes like Oppenheimer after doing Tenet, and you're like, oh, okay, so we're like starting to do some range, and now he's doing the Odyssey, and you're like, okay, this is cool. This is
getting crazy now. Yeah, this is a way different direction than he had been going. So no, I agree. I think this is cool for Alex Garland to take, and I'm excited to see it, even though I don't know much about the game. I just know, it's very popular, and the aesthetics look really cool. So
I do want to play it.
I'm into it. I'm down. Yeah. But yeah, I think last on our list here for the day is that we got finally released that the Harry Potter trio of Harry, Ron, and Hermione have been cast. And so obviously we're not going to know who these names are because they're like 10 years old. But we have Dominic McLaughlin as Harry Potter, Arabella Stanton as Hermione Granger, and Alistair Stout as Ron Weasley. I mean, first impression, I'm not complaining. I think these look like the trio in my head, even though I have a very distinct view of what Hermione looks like. I know in the book she's described differently, and maybe this is even closer than what like Emma Watson was.
I would say so. I would say that Arabella is a little bit more closely
book accurate, right?
Book accurate, yeah.
And
even Ron in that respect, because he's got like a bunch more freckles on his face.
True.
This kid.
You're right. He's a little more book accurate. Yeah. So I'm here's the funny thing. I think I'm just really happy they kept like Ron and his family as redheads, because I don't know if you've noticed, but they, like in so many like properties that have been adapted in like the last 10 years, they like race swap the redhead for somebody else. And I was so worried that would happen to like the entire Weasley family. But we get to keep our signature redhead family. So that's nice.
Yeah. So my thoughts on this is I know this might sound like heresy, and I'll have to wait until the show is shot and I'm watching it. And I do think that Daniel Radcliffe, when he's a kid, Grant, looks very much like Harry from the books.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say perfect. I wouldn't say perfect.
You mean as he ages, he gets worse, or what?
He does get worse as he ages.
Okay.
But even as a kid, if you look at some of the drawings of Harry, there is something about this Dominic kid that if you were to put the glasses on him, which we haven't seen yet, but
I'm shocked they didn't. Yeah.
But if you were to put the glasses on him and then put him in a robe, I do have a sneaking suspicion he might look a little bit more like Harry from the books than even Daniel Radcliffe did.
Interesting.
Now, Daniel Radcliffe will most likely always be who I think of when I see Harry Potter. Like, it's just kind of going to be hard not to.
Oh, I think the entire cast is like, we'll never see them as like the true, original or like the true version of that character.
Maybe, but I am rooting for like these kids to, because like the way that I see it is like they interviewed, like there was that report that they interviewed like 32,000 children.
Which is insane, roles. Man.
But that means that they had extensive casting done.
Yeah, they had all the options they could want.
And just like how I get very excited when I hear that they had extensive chemistry tests between David Cornsweet and Rachel Brosnahan, and even the few moments that I got to see them interact in the newest Superman trailer, I was like, dang, I really buy them together.
Right.
What I'm hoping is that they had just as
Similar
if not greater tests to see how these kids would interact with each other.
Yeah, because your show is banking on their chemistry and their acting,
for like the next 7 years.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe 8 if they split up that book again.
I really hope not. That's the worst thing.
You would think that like the show, like, if they gave like 10 1-hour long episodes, then they should be able to do it in one season,
Yeah, you would hope. But like, you have to imagine that this has got to be like one of the most exhaustive, extensive castings that it's been done in a long time.
Yep.
The very fact that they set out to do this show in general, even though like maybe it's because there was
guaranteed IP and
money and the IP, but the idea of just rebooting it in general instead of trying to mind it another way, like I'm like, okay, I mean they're going for it, and every casting so far that I've seen, I've been like, I mean, that's pretty good casting, and it's from the people who did Succession, and then I forgot what the other show was that I was excited about that they were a part of. But like, yeah, I don't know. I know that Dominic kid had worked with Nick Frost in something earlier.
Nice.
So he's already worked with Nick, who's going to play Hagrid.
That's amazing.
Arabella was playing, I believe, Matilda in a West End production. Which
nice.
West End is, some would argue that Broadway is, the West End of America.
Okay.
So, you have this amazing, potentially child actress who's been on essentially Broadway,
right,
going to play Hermione, and who, yeah, I do think is way more book accurate. And also, I haven't seen it yet. Maybe it's because I haven't gone looking.
Yeah,
but
I really haven't seen any negativity towards her.
And I would hope it's because people would have enough like shame or
to like bully a 10-year-old kid or whatever.
Hopefully they have enough like, all right, what am I doing with my life if I'm gonna be like,
I'm gonna complain about this, right?
Right. So
yeah,
I don't know, and then this Alistair Stout kid as Ron. I mean, that is a name, Alistair Stout.
Yeah, very British, huh?
Very British. I don't know. I don't know. I'm excited. I really hope they nail it. But it is a big task. It's a big task. It's a big task to equal, or try to succeed what was done. But they do have the benefit of more screen time and being able to dive into the characters more than before. But
now I do think like the show in general, like just speaking about that for a second, is like, it is smart because like so I was at Universal Epic this last weekend, and like one of the things that's so interesting is that like the majority of fans at any of these Harry Potter places are adults, right? So I think you're finally going to get like a new kid audience in if you like start the show and market it towards like kids, right? And two, like what I thought, like
I would also argue that a lot of kids are still in school right now.
No, but I mean it's more so than like just my time there. It's like whenever, and it was Memorial Day weekend. It's not like kids don't have the weekend off, right? And whenever you see like those places populated, it's majority adults. But I think what's interesting there is that like the Fantastic Beasts like movies were failing like horribly, right? And if you're going to go with 2 more movies, you're probably losing money on both of those movies. So I do think it was better to like just reboot totally in general rather than like give us even more unwanted spinoffs. But what's so weird is that like the new park, like the new, Harry Potter section is based off of Fantastic Beasts. So like, what are you doing there? Like, why would you like create a whole park for something that failed, in a sense, and like, and in a direction you're not going in? I mean, that's another point, but
right.
It's, I do think the show is, it makes sense, like money wise and for the property in general. And I hope the kids respond, to be honest, because I want Harry Potter fans through the ages.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I think that's our thoughts on Harry Potter and for all of our topics today. But yeah, did you get to watch anything in these past couple of weeks that you want to talk about?
Finished Survivor.
Same. Very happy with the winner, to be honest. I would have been
happy with any of them, probably.
Agreed. I agree. Like that was so rare, like to see in Survivor, was that like I could have been so satisfied with like any of the final 5 winning. Yeah, like final 5, which is crazy.
And apparently Kyle, Camilla, and Joe are all coming back for season 50.
Yeah, which I was like, look, they're all great like players that I would love to see again. And I would love to see like Kyle and Camilla like go on a season and have to figure out a whole new strategy.
Yeah.
Same with Joe. He can't really rely on his loyalty strategy anymore, like in a new season, because everyone just knows it. Or his loyalty honesty strategy.
But, I mean, is that even a strategy?
You have to have other people buy in is the problem. And
you do. But look how far it took him.
Yeah, got him all the way. But you had somebody who was like his right hand person was oh shit, I'm already forgetting names. The autistic girl.
Right.
Eva. Yeah, like she was never going to turn. Shaheen was never going to turn on him because he thought he could beat Joe. Kyle also did the same thing. And I was shocked that Joe only got 1 vote at the end. Like that blew my mind. And that Kyle got 5 of the 8 votes.
I mean, Kyle just played a better game.
He did. Yeah. So, look, it was an amazing season.
I'm glad that David with this weird
the fake out.
I was like, that's what this was. You were just faking it the whole time.
I was like,
there was no even reward. It was just like, why?
He just wanted to make him feel uneasy. I don't know why.
It was every single time I saw him, I was scared he was gonna like pounce on them and beat them up. I don't.
I mean, the Survivor wouldn't have let that happen, but yeah.
I mean,
yeah, but he is a gigantic dude, so I'm surprised they honestly didn't bring David back for season 50. But
I mean, I wouldn't. He was scary.
Yeah.
For like,
and he's not a
he was
favorite,
playing like the serious dude.
Agreed. Yeah.
And then besides that, trying to watch all of the extended cuts of Lord of the Rings because Hannah's never seen Return of the King.
Nice.
And then also watching Clarkson's Farm season 4.
Yep.
Yeah,
my parents watched that.
It's really
yeah.
It's very entertaining.
I've heard.
But
I heard he's got like a what is it? A fucking like pig slaughtering problem right now or something.
Oh, I thought they fixed that.
Oh, did they? Maybe they're behind.
Or maybe I'm behind. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyways, but I think that's it.
Yeah, I think besides Survivor, the only thing I've watched besides NBA playoffs.
Oh, and Andor. Finish Andor.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, we can't have an extensive discussion on here about it, but I fucking love Andor. I finished that as well, and I really wanted to watch Rogue One right after. I haven't had the time to do it. unfortunately. But it really seamlessly goes right into Rogue One, and I can't wait to like someday make it like a full on trilogy for myself. But yeah, I mean, season 2 was beautiful, and like particularly episodes like 1 through 3, 7 through 9, and like 10 and 11 were just amazing writing and acting and directing. And yeah, I couldn't ask for a better Star Wars show, and I'm so happy that they gave him $650 million to play with and basically give no notes. So yeah, amazing show. I don't think I've really watched anything else that's of like significance. No, I don't think so. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's the podcast this week. Thank you guys for watching and sticking with us and listening. If you want to watch and listen in the future, we release these bi-weekly and reviews weekly. If you want to follow or watch any of those or listen to any of those in the future, those those links are in the descriptions below. And if you want to support us by giving us a like, a comment, a rating, a review, or a subscribe, we greatly appreciate it.
All right. Until next time.